Evan Remington. I'm the founder and president of Organic Fresh Fingers. We provide a fresh and local lunch to schools using fresh, local, natural, and organic ingredients. So I want to talk a little bit about school lunch in general. School lunch has been served at schools all over Europe as early as 1790, and it still continues today. School lunch was not really organized, though, for many years in the U.S. It was mostly just people bringing the pint jars to school, which essentially was your lunch or soup in a pint jar that they would set on the radiator of the school classroom, and by lunchtime it'd be piping hot and ready to eat. They also had the white cow method, which was a white cow that was on the playground that provided the children with all their dairy needs. It wasn't until about 1904 with the book Poverty that the importance of school lunch became widely discussed. And then in 1906, another book came out indicating that there were 2 million children at that time in 1906 of school age in the U.S. that were victims of poverty, which denied those common necessities, particularly adequate nourishment. Such children are, in many cases, incapable of successful mental effort, and much more of our nation's expenditure for education, in consequence, is an absolute waste, said the book. But that wasn't the only thing that was kind of happening during that time. There was also a movement to plant gardens on school property, and those were essentially called the Victory Gardens, which were basically gardens on the school property that the children maintained and that the government encouraged them to maintain. And the idea was essentially to provide high-quality, nutritious food for the boys that were needing to be fattened up and ready to fight in World War I and World War II. It was also meant to nourish the women who were going to have to essentially leave the home and take the factory jobs over so that the men could go and fight the war. So nutrition at school was really important. It wasn't until 1946 that the first actual National School Lunch Program Act was signed into law. And the ideology behind it was essentially that all children deserve and absolutely need, for the betterment of the entire community, a healthy lunch. In 1966, the funding was increased and basically provided additional assistance to states through grants and aid and other means to meet more effectively the nutritional needs of our children. During the Reagan administration, however, the school lunch program was cut for the first time in history, and due to the economy at that time, it was cut during a time where there was the greatest need ever recorded for nutritional lunches at school. School cafeterias during that time became heat and serve operations. New schools were built that literally did not have functional kitchens, and we see that often today. They're literally based on programs that had to compete with food items that were often perceived by children as more attractive options. The school cafeteria began to mimic the increasingly grab-and-go lifestyle of the typical American family. As it turns out, replacing Uncle Sam with Ronald McDonald to supply school lunch caused some concerns regarding the children's health. Surprise, surprise. In fact, a study in 1992 showed that the school lunches far exceeded the recommendations for fat, saturated fat, and sodium. And it's now estimated that as many as 33% of Americans' kids are obese. 33% now. And many of us, school lunch advocates, including Organic Fresh Fingers, are now attempting to go back to the original ideology of a fresh, local, nutritious, high-quality food in schools. I'm thinking that perhaps if we can go back to utilizing the National School Lunch Program not only as a source for wholesome, nutritious meals that help our children's health and ability to learn, but also as a learning opportunity to teach Americans how to eat well and how to care for ourselves, we may be able to stop the trend of more and more of us becoming sick and with the skyrocketing healthcare costs. Fixing school lunch would help combat childhood diet-related diseases and illness, as well as increase jobs and revenue for Oregon's agricultural industry, and it has a positive environmental impact by sourcing foods locally. Again, I'm Evan Remington, founder and president of Organic Fresh Fingers. If you'd like to know more about the National School Lunch Program or how Organic Fresh Fingers is tackling it and trying to fix it, please contact me.